Since the terrible attacks of September the 11th, the market has been in somewhat of a downward spiral from a kind of premium size perspective in terms of a rating methodology. Now, as a result, that has kind of removed some of the profit from the market slowly over time. And as a result, over the last few years, we've seen a very, very marginal result for insurers and reinsurers on the aviation portfolio. So now what we're starting to see is kind of a withdrawal of capacity of other insurance and reinsurance companies from the market, and starting to see a rationalisation and an increase in these premiums and pricing pressures for clients. So the budget airlines have certainly tried to kind of steal away some of that business from traditional kind of major flag carrying airlines. And this is a phenomenon that's probably been ongoing now for at least the last 15 or 20 years. It's a kind of an operation that started in North America and Europe. It was very common, and now we're starting to see that branching out into Asia. Obviously, AirAsia being the most predominant kind of low-cost carrier in the region, but we've also seen companies like Cebu Pacific in the Philippines and Vietjet in Vietnam also start to move into that area. It's fantastic in one way because it's another client for us to insure. It presents a slightly different type of risk, in my opinion. The business model is centred around kind of high-frequency flights, very fast turnarounds from arrival and departure again. So your number of takeoffs and landings relative to a major flag-carrying airline like Singapore Airlines are much increased, and predominantly having the majority of the risk in the landing and takeoff stage. That means that presents some additional risk factors for the underwriters to look at and how they price their business. Yeah. The landscape from operating aircraft in the Asia-Pacific region is fundamentally quite different to what we see in parts of more of the mature aviation markets around the world, predominantly being the US, Australia and mainland Europe. What we're seeing here is a kind of a growth that's happened very, very quickly in terms of the number of aircraft that have flowed into this region, and that continues up until this day and is probably planned to continue for the next 20, 30 years. Also, what we're seeing is the guys that are based in Asia have gone right to the kind of forefront in terms of the quality of the aircraft they're buying. So they are buying the newest aircraft with all the bells and whistles and all the newest kit on board, and as a result of that, that brings some risk characteristics with it in terms of having to actually be trained in a certain way in order to kind of deal with these type of sophisticated aircraft. In addition, because we've got such a large growth in passenger and departure numbers in the Asia-Pacific region, there's a huge demand for pilots. So actually, how do we get enough pilots through in a safe manner out into the commercial airline space in order to operate these aircraft? And then the final piece to add on to that is that we also have a huge growth in terms of the infrastructure that exists in Asia. So new airports are being built around the world. In Asia, that is predominantly consolidated, and that's where you're seeing the majority of the growth. You're seeing a lot of the differences between how the aircraft are handled on the ground relative to how they'll be handled in other parts of the world like the UK or the US, and that presents certain risk characteristics that we need to price into our business. So what we have seen in Asia is a predominantly a shift away from traditional kind of manual type of handling of aircraft into fly-by-wire aircraft, and we are now seeing in Asia the biggest aggregation of fly-by-wire aircraft of anywhere in the world at the moment. That presents certain risk characteristics, as we mentioned before, from a training perspective. It also brings certain risk characteristics from the actual value of these aircraft in the first place. We are the preeminent worldwide underwriter of aviation and space risk based in Asia. We predominantly cover a kind of quite a broad range of risk. At the top end, we're dealing with kind of like the major flag-carrying airlines such as Singapore Airlines and Malaysian Airlines, right the way down to smaller aircraft operators who might be offering business jets and kind of helicopter coverage in and around Asia, and also on a worldwide basis. In addition to the aviation coverages that we provide, we also provide space coverage, predominantly on a launch and an orbit basis. So rockets which are effectively launching communication satellites into orbit, we will also offer coverage on a worldwide basis for these clients.